Want to see this turn into this? This secretary desk speaks to me, and when it does, it says, "Hey girl, I'll hold your plants." The set designer in me is always looking for ways to add extra functionality to any sort of object, and secretary desks are pretty awesome because they're already a cabinet and a desk at the same time. So I was wondering if I could add additional features to the secretary desk. It was pretty used and abused for plenty of years, very well loved, so it had a lot of damage to it, lots of scratches, stains, and whatnot. So I got started by removing all of the hardware. I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to give it a vinegar bath later. I'm taking everything apart here, and luckily I got the kids' help with a little bit of that as well. You want to be really careful when removing them not to damage any of the hardware because you'll want to use it later. One of the slats was already having trouble pulling out, so I knew that I was going to have something that had to be fixed there. The next step was to give everything a really good cleaning. I'm going to be painting most of this, but of course I did want to keep the wood on the desk portion. There's just something about looking down, writing, and seeing real wood. The downside, though, is that of course the part that I wanted to keep was the part that was the most damaged. So I started by stripping it, and then in addition to that, I went ahead and did a ton of sanding to it. I did get with the help of the kids, I got the little cabinets taken out here, and there is like a half-inch gap under them when they're installed, but there's also this kind of buffer piece of wood here as well, and that's also about a half-inch. So yeah, I want to take it out. I want to get rid of that if I can, so that I can gain a little bit more room at the bottom. It won't be enough thickness probably to fit my laptop under it, but it should be enough that I can do something other than lose papers behind it, because I fear that that's all that's going to happen. Right, I was able to successfully pry it off, so obviously I'm going to have to knock out these nail heads. These nails. This one I want to keep. These ones here, I want to actually pound this one back in because, as you can see, it is holding this guy in place. So I just got to get rid of this guy right here. There is some concern with that though, and the concern is that if we look on the other side, that's the latch. That's kind of the piece that's holding the latch in place. But that's fine because then we'll just screw that into the top of the desk itself, and then hopefully that should function just the same. All right, we've got a good news, bad news alert. So taking out that top piece actually did gain me quite a bit of space down here. However, we can't tuck it in all the way, and that is because there is a structural piece. There goes the measuring tape. There's a structural piece. I don't know if you guys can see it. Right in there. Maybe if I look at this one. Yeah, you guys can see that better. So I don't want to get rid of those because it's helping to keep the whole thing square. So what I'm going to do is actually probably just notch these out toward the back, which should be fine because then I can still screw the sides to the insides of the piece there, and this shouldn't lose any structural integrity, but I definitely don't want the entire desk to lose any. Then it became time to paint and stain, which was definitely an easier said than done kind of task because there was so much damage on this piece. There was a lot of bleeding through. It required a lot of priming, and then also became an issue because I ended up having to get more paint, and the paint that was mixed was not the same exact shade as the original paint that I had purchased. So that caused some problems in the end. However, it didn't keep me from adding the details that I wanted. It just took a little bit longer, sadly. Because I wanted to be able to move it from place to place relatively easily, I decided to put casters on the bottom, and then I coated everything with a clear varnish just to protect it. Once everything was painted, it was time to start to reassemble things. So as mentioned earlier, I decided that I had to notch out the corners of the shelves, which was fine because I would just screw it directly to the desk itself. It worked out well and actually did get enough space to mostly get my laptop under there. I was able to at least get it closed enough that I could fit it in there and close the front hatch. To hold with this two-tone idea that I had, I stained the drawers and the door the same color as the desk itself and just painted that accent the teal color that I had for the rest of the piece. And as I mentioned before, one of the goals here was to make this even more functional than before, so I wanted to use the back of the desk as an optional standing desk. So I created a flip top where it looked like it would just be a nice piece of wood on the top. However, you can flip it over and it becomes twice the width of the top, and you can stand there and prop it up and use that as a desk as well. So here I am preparing that shelf and the corners that will help prop it up. Another bit of functionality that I wanted to add was that I wanted to create a gallery rail on the front cover so that even when the front was closed and hiding your desk area, you could still display art on it. That way, if I wanted to use it in the classroom, I could have whatever we're working on for that particular day waiting right there. So I joined a couple of pieces of trim to create this ledge and then stained them to match the rest of the wood tones and affixed that to the front cover. As a finishing touch, I also waxed the inside of all of the drawers with Dixie Belle. I wanted to update some of the hardware. I kept the hardware where the locks were, but the drawer pulls, I went ahead and filled in one of the holes and used these glass knobs that my kids helped me pick out. After the vinegar soak and the scrubbing of the hardware, the locks and all that fun stuff, I made sure to brush them all down with Ballistol to lubricate the locks and protect the metal. And then it was time to put everything back together again. After a little drawer lining, it was a finished product and ready to use.